Stephanie, hi, Jim Delpine here, and I want to give you some help with your character here. So, first of all, the background, you want to have Fred so he's in a location, and this is just kind of a background. So, let's see what we can do about that. So, first of all, if I select the background here, pardon me, control click on it, and okay, so that's the size. So, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to create. First of all, let me backtrack a bit. You did not create any adjustment layers that are clipping mask, and you did not save any selections that are renamed as channels. So you need to do that. I'm posting instructions in my comments on how to do that in the comments area. All right, so first of all, you can accomplish the first thing with creating an adjustment layer that's a clipping mask. Actually, you don't even need one for this, but here's what you would do. First of all, this is a little too light. Let's do this. I'm going to click on the adjustment layer icon and I'll select levels. Okay, so um, with levels, with levels, to create a clipping mask out of it, you would immediately Alt or Option click in between these layers here. Once you see that funky icon, you click. Now it attaches only to that underlying layer. You really wouldn't need it because this is the bottom layer, but if you was to occur anything anywhere up here, you would need to attach as a clipping mask so it wouldn't affect all of the underlying layers, okay? So let's bring the shadows into this background image here by clicking on the shadow slider and dragging that all the way over. And you notice how it increases the contrast of the wood and it looks a lot better, okay? So now I'll close out of that. And now what I'll do is I'm going to rotate this. Okay, so I'm going to hit Control T and then click and spin it around, and then when it gets around here, I'm going to hit Shift to lock it in, and then let go of my cursor first, and then I'll drag it up to the top and hit Enter. Okay? Then what I'm going to do is duplicate that layer, the bottom layer, the background. Okay? I'm going to hit Control J. That duplicates the layer. And then I'll drag the bottom layer down. So if I start hitting my down arrow key, I will drag this down, all the way down, and then once I hit the bottom here, I want it to kind of mesh up here, okay, and meet this area right here. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I want to make sure, you see, by dragging this down, the image extends outside of the viewing area. So if I control click on that thumbnail, you can see that it extends all the way, well, I can't see here. Why doesn't it? If I hit Control T to put a bounding box around it, what's going on here? In any event, here's what we're going to do. We're going to hit Control A or Command A to select all, and then hit Image Crop. Okay, so that deletes all the outside pixels. Then I'm going to hit select this bottom layer, which is this layer here, and I'm going to hit Control. I'm going to Control click on that thumbnail, so it puts a selection around all these opaque pixels. Then I'll go to Edit, Transform, Perspective. Okay, if you pull out the bottom left or right bounding box, it's going to pull this out and give it a floor. So Fred is now on a floor. I'll hit Enter. Okay. Now, if I didn't have this as a clipping mask, by Alt-clicking again, it would affect the underlying layer here also. So I'll leave it as is. I'll hit Control D. So now that looks pretty good. Now, what we can do is this. I want to show you how we can apply a clipping mask. Okay, so for this upper layer, which is the upper area here, I'll select Use Saturation and then immediately create a clipping mask out of that. Now, any kind of change I make in color, well, this is really not the best example to use because it's all black and whites. It's not a good example at all. Never mind. Let's just delete that. Yeah, there's no color to change it here. It's all black and white. So let's do this. Let's look for another option here. I'll select, let's see, I'll select, I don't know if color balance would do anything for this. Solid color, okay? So we're going to make this a solid color. Let's just choose a blue, okay? So that's a blue, and now I will alt click on that, and that is, and now I'll see what I can do with, here we go, with blending modes, okay? We can, I probably chose the wrong one. All right, I'm trying to get some color in the background. Or let's do this. Let's simply go to the levels here. I'll make the bottom one darker. All right, so that means creating an adjustment layer for levels again. All right, and making that a clipping mask. And then we can make this a little different. We can make it a little darker. Okay, so that resolves that. All right. So now we have an area that fits Fred. All right, so now let's do this with Fred. Let's look at him closely. And okay, so we've got this Twizzler here. You see, this has to look like it's all part of the elements here. This is going to take a little bit of finagling here. So it looks like you have a cherry behind here. Why is this going on? What do you have here? That's not needed. You have another. Oh, I know why that's there. That you did that to create a shadow. All right, so that's there. All right, so let's put this cherry, let's say it's over here. All right, so now what you'll do is paint on the layer mask to make it look like it's going into the ice cream. So if I choose my paintbrush, make black my foreground color by hitting the letter D, clicking on the paintbrush icon to make sure it's at 100% hardness. You want a hard edge. All right, now with the layer mask active for that right cherry eye, I'll zoom in, and my left bracket key will decrease my brush size, right bracket key increases it. I'm just going to click and paint along here to paint it out to make it look like it's into the ice cream. Okay, that's the use of the layer mask. Okay, so if I right click and disable it, that's before. Enable it, that's after. Okay, so you do the same thing with this one here. All right, so you can reposition it anywhere you want. You can make it look odd, but you want it to look like it's going into the ice cream. So I'm looking for a logical location might be right here. So now, with the layer mask active, painting with black with a hard edge brush, I'll click and shift click to make a straight line. So it's there. So now it looks like it's into the ice cream. All right, you get the idea? So that's where creating these, that's why this doesn't work. This marshmallow here, this is just kind of there. You put that there to look like a nose. All right, just get rid of that. That's not good. All right, this twizzle here, if you want that to look like it's part of character, then let's see, Twizzler mouth. So let's scale that up, and it looks like it's not a good quality image at all. All right, so you want to see the details in the I don't know what you'd call that shape that makes a Twizzler, but you basically want to select the layer mask and paint on the layer mask to make it look like it's going inside the cupcake. You know, I don't know what that would look like. This isn't working, you know, the nose. So now also this cupcake, there's a lot. This needs some contrast. It's too dark, so we're going to create an adjustment layer for levels for that, and we're immediately going to alt click so this connects to it. Okay. Now all these lines here means it's been adjusted already, so I don't know how this is going to work. So, but making any adjustment will affect only the cupcake, and it's going to affect this in a kind of a dramatic way. So I don't know what we're going to do here. So let's bring the highlights in. All right, but it's blowing out the highlights in the top part. But we want the bottom part to be visible. So see what I'm doing here? So this cupcake part of the cupcake looks good. But now what we'll do is paint on this layer mask for that. And that means going into the paintbrush and masking out the upper portion of this so it's hidden. So if I get a large brush, I'm painting on the layer mask for that clipping mask. Alright, so we're bringing all that back in. We're masking out this portion. You got to be a lot more careful than I'm doing. I'm just showing you, the basics. But basically, you want to mask out the white portion of the icing. All right, so now we have good contrast with that. Before it looked like that. Now it looks like that. All right. So now what you want to do is throw a shadow onto the strawberry from the cupcake. So if I select the strawberry, but go to my move tool, making sure that's selected and clicking here, okay, this is the layer of the strawberry. I'm creating a new layer above that layer. All right, so it's a blank layer. I'm going to my paintbrush, clicking on the foreground color, clicking and dragging over here to select a medium gray, hitting OK, and then going to my paintbrush, right, the paintbrush tool is active. I'm selecting a 0% hardness, okay. Now I'm going to increase my brush size by hitting my right bracket key. All right, so what I'm going to do now is paint on that new layer that's on top of the strawberry but underneath the cupcake. So it's going to look like this, right? Looks messy, okay? Let me undo that. I want that shadow to stay contained within the strawberry. All right, it's throwing a shadow onto the strawberry. So I'm going to Control or Command click on the thumbnail for the strawberry layer. Okay, making sure that the new layer I created is active. I'll now paint on that layer. Right, it's gray. It looks terrible, but on that new layer, we're putting that into multiply mode. All right, so now it looks like a shadow. All right, so the larger the brush, the softer the edge. All right, but something like that will ground it, and you have control over that layer because you can decrease the opacity of that color. Okay, the shadow. I would rename those layers too. I see you have them named up here, so that's good. All right, so now what's not working is, I mean, there's a lot I have to say about this. It takes time, but the marshmallows, you want them to look like they're connecting together. So these don't. All right, and it's only because of the stacking order so far. So let's take this one. All right, let's see this one. Um, mm, mm, I don't know. Let's see this or this. We have to bring them all up under each other. All right, so right. So this is this, this is this, and this is this. So we need this one here on top. All right, because they have to be behind each other. This one here will be underneath. So see it? This is overlaying this, which is overlaying that. So that's how you have to do it. Then we have to line them up correct. All right, and so now we're going to select all three by shift clicking and then just move them. I'm going to rotate them, right? So Control T and then take the center rotation mark here and put it like right here. So now when I click, it'll rotate around that point. All right, so I'll put that here. I'll hit enter, zoom in. So now instead of having all three, I just want this one selected. So I want it to look like it's going into the strawberry. This is not really the most realistic way to do it. I mean, a marshmallow sticking into a strawberry. I mean, maybe there's a toothpick sticking out of this and into the marshmallow. I don't know. But what you would do is paint with the paintbrush with black on that layer mask. Note that this has to be at 100% hardness now, right, because we want a hard edge. I'm going to decrease my brush size and make it appear as if it's sticking into the strawberry, something like that. All right. And then you're going to have to create a shadow under here the same way we did this. All right, so that means going back to the strawberry layer, creating another new layer, going to the that layer mask and click control clicking on that layer. Wait a second. For the marshmallow arm right. All right, control clicking, and then on the new layer, you want to paint with blacks, but what you need to do is just do this right. You need to inverse the selection by hitting Shift F7. So now everything else can be painted on, but the marshmallow. Okay, so that means going back and getting a soft edge brush, 0% hardness, and now just kind of like click and painting down. All right, so now I made a mess here, right? It's okay. So watch what we're going to do. I'm going to put this into multiply mode. All right. Now what I'm going to do is, I know this is sounding a little complicated, but on the strawberry layer, all right, first of all, I'll deselect. All right, with the strawberry layer active, I'll control click on that thumbnail. Okay. I said strawberry layer active. I did not mean to say that. I meant with this shadow layer active. I will control click on the strawberry thumbnail to select that selection. Then I'll inverse that selection because I want to delete. So if I go to my, let's see, my eraser tool and delete, the right size brush is going to erase this part. I don't want that erased. I want everything else but that erased. So let me undo that and inverse the selection. So Shift F7, and now everything else but that is selected. So now I'll click and drag and erase that part. Okay? So now you can go in here and go in and erase a portion of this or make the opacity less. But this doesn't really look like a shadow yet, so you need to be artistic here, okay? So with a larger brush and 0% hardness with the eraser tool, you can erase some of these pixels by doing that. Okay, you basically want to ground this to here. All right, it doesn't really look too effective because of the perspective, but all right, so your shadow, the shadow, pardon me, needs to be less of an opacity. That's all you got to do. All right. Actually, this should also, all shadows should be in multiply mode. All right. And I think you're on the way. You know, the text, that's another story. This is I'm talking a lot here. I'm sorry, but so let's take the text. All right. I'm gonna select Fred. I'm gonna highlight that, double click on it, and Control X to cut it. Didn't cut it. Why not? Oh, there it goes. Okay. All right. So I'm now going to double click again, or triple click to select all that, and we're going to increase the size. Let's see what the 70. Oh, you put this in a text box. Oh, that's why. Okay. So here's what you got to do. All right. So let me copy this. All right, and delete this layer. Instead of clicking and dragging to create a text box, just click, and now Control V, and now put your text in here. All right, so now you don't have any constrainment of a text box. I'm going to double click, I'm going to triple click to select this line of text, highlight this text. I'm going to make this a bold text. Arial, black. All right, now I'll do that, and I'll make this one line of text. I'll hit Control T. Whoops. I'll hit Control T when I'm in the Move tool, and I'm going to scale this up tremendously. So if I hit the Shift key, and I want to make this as wide as I can. Flipping, okay, and food. I will select that text, and I will increase the scale by clicking up here and increasing that until it fits that width. See what I'm doing here? I'm clicking and dragging. I'm scrubbing on this T. Right? So there we go. So now I'll take this and I'll control click on the T, making that a selection. I'm hiding the text. I'm going down to my background layer, this here, okay? And I'm hitting Control J. That copies a selection, copies whatever is in that selection to the layer above, which means if I double click this, I can apply a layer style, okay? And bevel and emboss looks like that. You can fool around with the settings for it. Let's see, I can go to color overlay, maybe select a red, and work with the opacity or whatever color you like. Maybe green would be a more appropriate food color. You know, you have choices here, something subtle. I think that works pretty good. All right, so something like that. And now with Fred. So let's do this. I'm going to type out the word Fred in caps. And whoops. Where's that text? Here it is. Okay. Keep grabbing that background here. We zoom in. That's because I had that. Alright, so notice the levels adjustment layer is staying there. So now with Fred active, I'll hit Control T and I will scale this up a lot. Alright, maybe something like that. Alright, so I'm going to hit Control T now. I'm going to hit Enter rather. And now what I'm going to do is take Fred and right click and convert that, rasterize the type. So it's no longer an editable font. Then I'll go to Edit, Transform, Perspective. And click and drag this out and to try to match the perspective of the floor. Okay, somewhat. Right there. So you see where I'm going with this, all right? So now, move Fred here. All right, so now I'll do the same process I did up here. I'll control click on the thumbnail to make that a selection. Hide the Fred layer, go down to the floor this time, right? I'll select the bottom layer and hit Control J, which will copy that to a layer above. You get a little bit different of a feel here because of the adjustment layer. So let me unclip that. So now with that layer active underneath, that copied layer, I can apply the same adjustment layer by copying this to this. So if I hold down my Alt or Option key and click on that FX and drag that to that new layer I just copied, it copies that the same attributes of that layer style. So I may want to go in and edit that. That's a little too green, so I can double click on the FX. That opens up the settings for that individual one, and I could decrease the opacity a lot. You know, maybe there. We'll change the color if I want. Make it whatever color I want, and there you go. All right, so keep that in mind and make some adjustments here. I mean, you may want to make this a little more fun. So, so for these two here, if I click and shift click and hit Control T and take my center point, drag it here, so everything will rotate around that, and then click and pull this up. All right, make her look like she's dancing. You know, make it fun. All right, I think that looks pretty good. All right, I also may want to. She looks like she really wouldn't stand like this, so I would move this over. Okay, And there you go. All right, I'm going to stop here. This is a very long video, so I hope that helped. But I want you to do all that. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. All right.